8. So it is recording, and again, for those of you who've been to our programming, it records this way, so you will not be on the program. So here we go. Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Wolf. I'm the programming coordinator for the Osterville Village Library. Thank you so much for being with us today. And to our friends joining us on Zoom, thank you so much for being here as well. Today we have an exciting author talk with Marc Anthony Arena, author of How to Protect Yourself from Your Computer. He also hosts a podcast titled The Computer Exorcist, which I hope that we are able to get for this summer. That would be a fun live podcast. So let's sit back, listen, and take notes on how we can better protect ourselves from viruses, spyware, toolbars, spam, and more. And maybe we'll figure out the real reason our computers are so slow. Without further ado, here's Marc Anthony Arena.
Yeah, really special librarian here. I want to retire and move here. Yeah. So show of hands, who's frustrated by technology? We're a lot of, you're all doing, I want to raise both my hands too, and you're all doing that. That's great. Don't worry, I'm sick of it too. And that's how I introduce myself in the book, is just like you, I'm sick of technology. It's overrated and overblown and overgrown and overcomplicated. And it doesn't have to be this way. None of the suffering is necessary. People think that they have to accept certain trade-offs, right? What are we told? You have to embrace it. It's inevitable. And just go with it. And all of the scams and the insecurity that come with it. It turns out all of that is unnecessary. And we're going to talk about why it's happening and what to do about it. But unfortunately, a lot of it lies in the fact that our guys we trust are running on 30-year-old training right now. Right? So it's kind of like if your local caucus had pop guns and they couldn't defend you, right? The guys we trust to defend us can't defend us because they are still using ancient methods. Yeah, no, it works. Yeah, I'm good. Yep, I'll just, yeah. So my name is Marc Anthony Arena. I've been in the IT industry since 2000. And we're going to talk about why it's a grease fire. What I noticed was I go to someone's house and Mark, my computer's slow. Okay, I go over there. What happened? Well, it was slow. So my nephew came over and installed a cleaner, and then it got worse. So it was slow. And then I brought it to the big box store and they installed a cleaner and a virus scanner. And for some reason it got worse. So then I went to some local guy and lugged my 50-pound computer to some guy's office for an indefinite amount of time. And he gave it back to me, and now it's worse. It's called a grease fire, right? I love that analogy. And that's how I discuss it in my book. You try to help it, flames get worse, right? Again, it does not have to be this way, but it's because those guys are using 1991 era products, thinking they're helping you, when in reality, it just makes the machine worse and worse and worse. And inevitably, you end up throwing away a perfectly good machine. Last night I was in Easton and I gave my talk. Guy raised his hand, intelligent, successful guy. And he said, Mark, my computer's a year old and all I want to do is listen to my sports broadcasts. And I got this thing and it updated. And the next day I had no sound on my machine ever again. I brought it to the big box store and they said, sir, your computer is old and it doesn't comply with Windows 11. So shame on you. You should put it in the garbage and buy a new one. And we'll be happy to sell you a new one. The thing's a year old. What about our fridges and our cars? They used to last for what, 50 years? And now they last less and less and less and less. So that's hardly progress. To quote Bishop Sheen, that's hardly progress. I've got a 20-year-old car and a 40-year-old car, and they're more reliable than a brand new rental car that I had to use last month. Why? It's all about complication, really. It's overcomplicated, and the designers have zero self-control. So in reality, what I told the guy last night was, I can make any machine last 15 years. If someone tells you, shame on you, your computer is a year old or 5 years old, you should put it in the garbage and buy a new one, it's because A, they don't know any better and they have no training, or B, they make money by pushing things on people that are unnecessary. In contrast to that, I make my money by saving people money. And I love teaching my apprentices how to do that. It's a win-win. I make good money by saving people lots and lots and lots and lots of money. I can, in a lot of cases, I chop people's cable bills in half and chop their cell phone bills because they're all paying for unnecessary stuff. These extreme turbo packages that some guy with a pop collar sold them because he wanted to make a quota. Right, or someone, a lot of times people at the cable company are trained to read from a sheet of paper that says, sir, ma'am, you need this extreme ultimate package, otherwise you can't stream your shows. In reality, the package they're selling you could power your whole neighborhood. It's all overkill. So there are so many topics flying around in my head, but that's a little preview of what we're gonna talk about. Well, I'll get to that in a second. Here's how I landed in this mess. 1992, Hollywood Beach, Florida, which is in Allendale, Florida. Anyone ever been there? Cool. So when I was little, my family brought me there to visit my grandma's aunt. And she used to spoil us and buy us lots of Oreos. She was the best. So she had some cousins over from, I guess, from the other side of the family, and they announced that they were gonna buy a new TV. And we said, why? And they said, it doesn't turn on anymore. My dad says, hang on a second, and he volunteered me to go take a look at it. So he takes me by the hand and we go up this elevator to this high-rise condo. And I said, let me see the remote. And I can picture it right now in my head. And I was standing in their living room, the TV's over here, they hand me the remote, and I roll the batteries around, and I said, give me some batteries. So they give me fresh batteries, and I turn the TV on. And they were astounded. And that was really the first time, I thought about this as an adult, and that was my first foray into this industry. In my estimation, the vast majority of expenditures in this industry are unnecessary. The vast majority of the products in the landfill are there unnecessarily, and it makes me cry. All of it is unnecessary. Again, we have an industry, I hate to use the word systemic too much, but this industry is designed by guys who profit from selling you things that you didn't need. And they make the industry increasingly complex by the minute, so that these folks, the senior citizens, the consumers, whoever, are confused and intimidated, and then they believe the guy at the store who tells them they need something new. In 2009, I had no idea what to do with my life. I had just gotten out of college, and I was still doing tech support for friends and family at that point. And I was cleaning people's computers, and by then, my dad's cousin called, I cleaned his computer, then he says, go to my sister's house. And I said, oh, you have a sister? So, and I got to know the sister, and she's wonderful, and then she sent me to her best friend's house, and it just kept going. And my girlfriend at the time just happened to accompany me to this best friend's house. And afterwards, she observed, hey, Mark, you're good at explaining this stuff in plain English. Why don't you do this for a living? I said, I don't want to do this for a living. And she said, well, you're broke, you might as well. So I've been here ever since. And it's worked out really well. I'm so glad, because normally I would drop her off at Starbucks, but she didn't want it that day. She wanted to come with me, so I'm glad she did. The next morning, printed out business cards, and I just started handing them out to people I knew. I did a year of corporate tech support, and then after that, I was able to take this side gig full time. I drove around my town repairing people's computers, and it was great. I do 3, 4, 5 jobs a day. It was satisfying. I'd make a lot of money. I'd help a lot of people. I'd come home, I put on Netflix, and I eat something in front of the TV, and it was a satisfying day. And then I realized a lot of things. This wasn't just a guy helping people making money. These are worldwide issues. And what I noticed was, I always had a feeling that the big box stores were ripping people off. But I had no idea how deep it went. I mean, just how these people have 7 to 8 minutes of training, or apparently they do, and the whole thing is designed to get you to put this stuff in the garbage. "Oh, I just bought it last year." "Yeah, but it's slow." "Oh, okay, it's slow. I should probably buy a new one." But we're gonna talk about how they deliberately slow down your phones and tablets and computers. The other thing is that all my clients were intelligent, successful people. Retired business owners, doctors, lawyers. My favorite was this guy named Dr. Earl, and he was just the nicest guy, and he had a home office room, and every couple months I'd go there and reset his AOL password for him. He had no fewer than 19 medical degrees in a frame. All my clients, intelligent, successful people. "Hey, Mark, I feel stupid." "Oh, my last computer guy said I'm stupid." "Oh, I'm such a dummy." And something just, they call it cognitive dissonance, right? Something went off in my head and I said, these aren't stupid people. Something's going on here. They are at the mercy of an industry that looks down on them. An industry that complexifies itself, as I said, as time goes on. And an industry that moves the goalpost every couple of weeks for you football fans. They move the goalpost on you. And they expect you to keep up, when in reality, the folks working in the industry can't even keep up. I talk to people who retired from this industry a couple of years ago, and I tell them, it's a whole new ballgame. Huh, interesting. The vast majority of those PCs in the landfill are there unnecessarily. Especially printers. Our printers used to last a long time, and now they last a year, right? Huh, I'm gonna explain that. There is a logical reason behind that. If people had any idea what was being done to them by this industry, they would get torches and pitchforks. And that's why I'm here. I will explain this stuff to you in plain English, and once I explain it to you and it makes sense, you say, "Huh, that's not right." So I always say there's two kinds of people in the world. Normal people like you with morals, ethics, logic, common sense, and then the IT industry over here, which has none of that. So what am I doing about this? I wrote my book, How to Protect Yourself from Your Computer. I also have a forthcoming book, which I hope to maybe finish later this year, called How to Protect Yourself from Silicon Valley. And I do my podcast called The Computer Exorcist, where I read articles from the tech industry and explain them. And I give talks. Here I am. So we're going to talk about the new threats. Here's the most important thing, or one of the key things that I'm going to tell you today. Viruses stopped in 2013. I've been doing this job 12 hours a day for quite a while, and I have not seen a virus since 2013. Traditional viruses cannot happen anymore. Unfortunately, most guys don't know this. They still think it's 1991, and they're still looking for these things that do not occur anymore. What if you went to your doctor and doctor asked you, "So, do you have bubonic plague or polio?" No. "Oh, then you're okay. You can get out of here." What if your doctor was only trained to fight ancient diseases that do not occur anymore? That's what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense? The guys we trust are only trained to search for ancient threats that do not occur anymore. They are not aware that there are new threats out there. So today I will explain those threats to you in plain English. So the first threat I remove on someone's computer, ironically, is the antivirus product. Okay, the antivirus product can never find any threats that occurred after 2013. But they are excellent at the following side effects. They give you, it's an excellent way to waste 75 bucks a year, in case you're itching to waste 75 bucks a year. And they're an excellent way to slow your computer down to molasses. You get a computer that's afflicted with Norton or McAfee or web root or something and it's crawling along. It's like an elephant sitting on top of a muscle car. I don't care how good your car is, it ain't going anywhere, right? That's the first thing I remove. People say, I mean, it's a hard thing to swallow. People say, wait a minute, Mark, well, what kind of protection do I need? When do I need an antivirus? I said, look, if you go on a telephone booth and travel back in time to 2013, sure, get an antivirus thing. If you're really nostalgic and you want to waste an hour doing a virus scan, every Windows machine has one built in anyways. It's called Windows Defender and it's quiet and it leaves you alone and doesn't waste your money. I've never seen a virus since 2013. But here's what I have seen. There are obviously threats out there, right? They just take on new forms. So I wrote this book to explain these new threats. The first new threat, legalized malware. It turns out, so I define malware just means malicious software, right? Malware, it's a portmanteau. I define malware as anything that slows you down, spies on you, begs you for money, or sometimes roasts your computer, right? Just ruins the whole thing. That's malware, right? That's always been the definition. Anything that's malicious or destructive. Turns out you can get away with it now, as long as you use the right words. As long as you don't call yourself a virus or a malware, you can call yourself a whole host of terms, which we'll talk about, toolbars and cleaners and optimizers, customer participation. You can call yourself one of those and get away with it legally. So it's not like someone banged a gavel and said it's okay for you to do this now. It's just that the bad guys realized as long as we use different words, we'll get away with it. And earlier, before everyone showed up, I was talking to some people here and I said that it's kind of like if we all want to rob a bank this afternoon. Let's all go to the bank and say, hey, everyone, stick them up. We're the plumbers. And we get away with it because we didn't say we're bank robbers. Does that make sense? So toolbars will latch onto your browser, okay? And then they'll hijack your home page and hijack your searches. Oh, but it looks like Google, so I didn't notice. How many times do I go to someone's house and they call me for some tip of the iceberg issue? And I get on their computer and I say, wait a minute, whoa, what's this? Well, I don't know, I didn't notice anything. So the bad guys will hijack your browser and they'll put something that looks like Google, but it's not actually Google, and they're hijacking and selling everything you're searching for, everything you're typing. Fully legal because they use the term toolbar. And again, your nephew or your local computer guy or whatever, they might mean well, but they're doing a virus scan which can never detect any of this. So toolbars hijack your browser, right? You're using Firefox or Chrome or heaven forbid Edge. And that's what they're doing. There's also imposter browsers now. They're mutilated versions of Chrome, like One Browser and Wave Browser and One Start. And they make new names every week, so I can't help you on the names. But the point is, they're imposter browsers. Again, hijack everything you do, sell all your behavior. Arguably, Microsoft Edge is one of those, because Microsoft Edge is also a mutilated version of Chrome whose primary purpose is to harvest and sell your behavior. And that's why, if you notice, if you're trying to use a competing browser, let's do that right here on this machine here. And Edge pops up and they attack viciously and desperately. Look at this. You want to sell Microsoft Edge? You need me. I'm your best friend. You need Edge. And you try to get out of there. Wait a minute, what are you doing? You need me. Edge is it's a wild thing. It's a wild thing to tame. I'm not a programmer, but I did create a little thing that stops Edge and rips it out. And every time you rip out Edge, Microsoft re-implements it. It just keeps respawning. And so I had to drill a hole in it figuratively. So whenever it respawns, it just goes down the drain. It's really cool. Fake protection. Right, if you've got any of these things that claims to scan for malware, it can't find anything. Okay, there's only a few things out there that will actually find this stuff. Because again, you can't call this stuff viruses, you have to call it potentially unwanted, because technically it's legal. Right, so it's bad guys, they have an evil boardroom and an evil secretary and an evil water cooler and an evil fish tank. But they're fully legal. Okay, fake cleaners. So if you guys have PC Optimizer Pro or a fake driver updater, like a driver guide, right? I walk into someone's house and their computer's horribly slow. And okay, well, again, I look for all that stuff and inevitably there it is, right? Well, what is this? I don't know. It says it's cleaning something and it does a smoke and mirrors scan and it pretends it's cleaning something and it gives you a pie chart and percentages and you feel good about yourself. And then they beg you for $39.99 a month and they slow your machine down massively. So if you have anything on there that claims to clean, it is actually destroying the machine. 400 years ago, yeah. In the 90s, yeah, we were putting things on there to clean the machine and that's how it worked. But nowadays, anything claiming to clean will destroy. Again, guy comes over to your house, thinks he's helping, and it turns into a grease fire. Makes it worse. And yeah, toolbars we talked about. Printer spyware. When I did corporate tech support for a year, there was one day when we had 5,000 people in the organization that we were supporting, and it's a big one, and I can't say what it is, but y'all know what would recognize it. But everyone called me one day. Hey, Mark, my computer's horribly slow. Okay. All right, what'd you do? Did you do anything recently? No, but one of your team members came in and installed my HP printer yesterday. Okay. Next call. Hey, Mark, my computer is really slow. All right, what'd you do? I didn't do anything, but your guy came over yesterday and installed my HP printer. I got 10, 20, 30 calls like that the rest of the day. Hey, Mark, my computer's horribly slow. I didn't do anything, but your guy installed an HP printer. Let me see, let me look into this, right? I didn't learn this in school. I learn as I go, because every day this industry unleashes attacks on us. The guys who are in the legal offices, these corporate offices, they are now unleashing the attacks. It's not scary guys in basements, okay? So I looked into it and I found out all printer manufacturers include some spyware now, but HP is the worst of 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 the worst as far as ethics. Turns out it's legal to spy on your printing behavior and who knows what else, as long as you call it customer participation program. Oh, that's nice. It's Orwellian, isn't it? And there's more of that. Microsoft has one called the Getting to Know You. It's newspeak, as they say. Getting to know you actually means, with Windows 10 and newer, the reason why Microsoft was so desperate and vicious to get everyone involved in Windows 10 is because getting to know you means they record your typing and your voice. Oh, but it's getting to know, oh, that's nice. It's not scary guys in basements anymore. And you know how they say bad guys do things under cover of darkness? What I say is they're doing this under cover of complexity, because we're all so overwhelmed, we don't know what's going on. And y'all are no dummies. A week ago I did this talk at this thing called Osher Institute, and it's continuing ed for seniors, and one lady raised her hand and said, how do we extricate this? And I said, see, my clients are using words like extricate. Y'all aren't dummies. When you read through the legalese, they know you don't have time to read through this. They know no one knows what's going on. So if you call it customer participation program, sometimes they'll call it product improvement study. Ironically, the products don't improve over time. Then they can get away with recording you, slowing your computer down massively, and begging you for money as far as ink subscriptions. Again, that was my definition of malware, wasn't it? Record you, slow you down, and beg you for money. Okay. So that's legalized malware. And again, you have a dude doing a virus scan, he can't find any of this because this is fully legal. No one can accuse them of spying. Okay on this one?
Where does it go once they spy on you and get that amount of
It
information?
lives in your computer and then they sell it to anyone they want. They sell it to the highest bidder.
The buyers are looking for what?
Advertisers, they're looking for your behavior.
Okay.
And I don't
They're
even
not
know
all
how
little
far.
holes in which to get more information, or they are creating little,
Yeah, there's a golden calf right now in my industry. People are worshiping data for data's sake. They don't even know how they're gonna monetize it, but right now they're willing to spend anything to get data on you. Facebook, for example, I get that when they show you ads on Facebook, they wanna have a general idea. They should be able to have a general idea of demographics, right? General information about your demographics. That's fair, all right? Income and where you live and your hobbies and whatever, fine. But Facebook was caught recording and selling your private messages within Facebook Messenger. They were selling that to Bing. They wanna know every last thing about you. Google had a meeting with Volkswagen a couple of years ago, I wanna say 2019. And they said, all right, you want Google technology in your cars? All right, we wanna know how much each passenger weighs. And the Volkswagen executive walked out and said they left a bad taste in my mouth, okay? They have no self-control in a lot of cases, it's just unchecked voracious appetite for data. And they really haven't figured out a way how to monetize it, but everything in this industry right now is about worshiping data and worshiping recurring revenue, which we'll get into a lot. They wanna be able to milk people for money instead of just selling you something. By the way, if you like to read, and I suspect some of you might because we're here, there's a book it's called Why Software Sucks. And it was written in 2007 by David Platt. And it really, really influenced what I think about my industry. It was written in 2007, but it is increasingly relevant because it talks about how these designers have no self-control. And a lot of them, myself included, are procrastinators. And they would much rather add frivolous features rather than fix fundamental reliability issues, because that would be hard. Right? And I do this when I walk around the house all the time. Like, I don't want to do that. That's hard. Let me go do something easier. So rather than make any of these products reliable, they're just adding more stupidity that no one asked for. What am I gonna say about that? Yes.
I even noticed I have a Jeep and it's brand new and they have a computer in there and they actually control the Jeep with the computer. And then it goes back and forth to you and your own computer and all that. And it's like, I wish I went back to the old fashioned car where they don't track you and know what you're doing and how fast you go and.
Yeah, it's all, it really makes you wonder. Right, because it's one thing if they wanna know general demographics about you, but they wanna know everything, they wanna know where you are at all times, what you're saying in the car, you have no idea what they're doing to you. And it's ironic because the Jeep used to be about fixing things yourself, and I had a buddy who had a 2000 Jeep, and he told me, Mark, I can fix anything on my car with a ratchet set, and that was it. When I rented that car last month, I was just, the whole experience was infuriating. I mean, every 3 seconds it's binging and ringing and criticizing me and shaming me and why did you do that? You're too close to the guy in front of you. What's your problem? And I just wanted to drive the thing off a cliff. And I was longing to go back to my 20-year-old car, which I still have for summer, and it's just, it leaves you alone. It starts, and while you're driving, you can turn the knobs and not take your eyes off the road. Imagine that. All of this stuff is just getting worse. It's just getting worse and worse because the people in charge, again, aren't like you. They don't have logic, morals, ethics, and common sense. They're just worshiping anything new. And I talk about this in the book too. If you're told that anything new is better, watch out. Better is better, right? I'm gonna say about myself, yeah, but so that's that. The second new threat this is the most controversial one, this is where I differ, from my industry. Until a lot of guys eventually see the light. I had a buddy who attended my lecture last night, he works in the software industry, and he was totally on board with this, he agreed with me on all of it. He gets it. Update attacks. I have coined this term to describe how updates are actually destructive. Oh, my computer guy told me that I should do an update, I should faithfully and dutifully do all the updates. What are they doing?
Does that include your like iPhone updates?
Oh, yeah. You ever wonder why your iPhone is too slow to use after 2 years?
Seems to have problems.
Yeah. You said it more politely than I did.
What did he say?
He said it seems to have some more problems after a couple of years, yeah.
After an update.
Here's what happens with an update. Updates come from the publisher, they are from Apple, Microsoft, Samsung, whoever, Amazon, etc. And they claim to help protect you. And they pop up very viciously, right? And that's the thing, my instinct kicked in when I said, why are they so rabid about pushing these updates? Heaven forbid you have a Samsung phone, heaven help you. They're vicious, those phones. You need this update, we're gonna bombard you and berate you. All my library words, until you give in. Updates claim to help protect you against some astronomically unlikely event. Sometimes you'll see them in the news, right? Your local newscaster, Apple says that there's a new risk that if a guy in Siberia in a basement wearing a green shirt on a high tide and a new moon on a Wednesday at 3 o'clock gets into your computer, he could figure out how you brushed your teeth. Really? But what do you give up? What's the trade-off here? At what cost? They protect you at what cost? When I was little, I really loved the really old classic Donald Duck cartoons. And remember, he was in a boat and he sprung a leak. So he stepped on it, right? And then sprung 2 more leaks behind him. So he goes over there and steps on those. And then he gets 3 more leaks. And then he has to step on those and put his hands to cover them up. And then he springs 4 more leaks and so on and so forth. And hilarity ensues, right? Or Cat in the Hat. I read that to my buddy's kids. And he shows up trying to clean the house, right? And what happens? Makes it worse. I love that lesson, and everyone in the computer industry, come to think of it, needs to read this book again. Whenever you get an update, most of the time, more often than not, in my professional opinion, may it please the court, they fix one thing and they break 10 more. That is why I call them update attacks. They mean well, but software is so hyper complex at this point. It's layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. It's not just one product. It's a product that's built on a product that's built on a product that's built on a product with all of the inherent flaws therein. Software is a house of cards. Most software products are incredibly chintzy and incredibly unstable and incredibly unreliable. And unfortunately, we're starting to rely on this stuff. It's no longer a hobby anymore. Oh, but it can do so many things. Look at all these fancy things it can do. If people had any idea how incredibly unstable it was behind the scenes, right? You ever notice after it does an update, your computer's spinning and spinning and spinning, or your phone is spinning and spinning, you get an update? What happens afterward? Aside from it breaking 10 other things, and now 10 other things don't work anymore, what else happened?
Shuts down.
In the next week or 2, what do you notice?
Performance is off.
Yeah. Most of the time it slows down that product dramatically. In the 50s, if you remember, the Ford Thunderbird would change every few years. And people felt like they had to buy a new one to keep up with the neighbors, right? And that's cool. That was planned obsolescence, but now it's forced obsolescence. Where now these things are deliberately damaged to encourage you to buy a new one prematurely. Really? And this is going on? Well, I was just told to buy a new one. I don't know, it was slow, so I assumed that I just needed a new one. It's just slow. Right? We think that somehow these things have wear and tear and they just slow down. Right? Does your furniture slow down and do you have to buy new furniture every year? No. I shouldn't have said that out loud, but some greedy furniture executive might start damaging your furniture. What if you bought a car and your car salesman smashed into your garage every 2 weeks and damaged your engine and maybe even rearranged everything so that your steering wheel's in the back seat, your pedals are out front now? That's what's happening. That's what's happening. They're also scrambling and rearranging everything. Right? You go to use a product after an update attack. Where's my thing? It used to be here. Now I have to go over here? Why did they change that? They have never heard of the concept of ownership before. The products that you and I buy, that we take home, that we hold in our possession, aren't ours anymore. A lot of these tech products, in a lot of cases, if you look at the legalese, it says you purchase the right, the license to use it until we say you can't use it anymore. There is a historical term, you serve at the pleasure of the president, right? These products, and we'll get into this more with cloud control gizmos, but these products now serve at the pleasure of their creator and work until they are told not to. Oh yeah, and your privacy. So, and again, I mentioned this earlier with Windows 10, the reason why Microsoft was so desperate, so eager to get you involved in Windows 10 is because of getting to know you. Oh, don't mind if I do. And every couple weeks when Microsoft unleashes another update attack, they add more of these, what I call don't mind if I do. And they start recording other aspects of your behavior. You're just a pair of eyeballs to be advertised to. You aren't the consumer. And lest you begin to worry, this is just the beginning of the talk where I highlight the problems. We get into solutions later. So I used to do a 4-evening course, and after the first night, people would approach me, Mark, I'm scared worse now. Don't worry, this is just me explaining the problem so you understand what's going on.
And question, the data that they're collecting, is it really that valuable? You know, I look at my life and I'm saying, who cares, you know, about what I'm doing?
It's a great question, and it's probably not, but they're so eager to start collecting as much data as they can on people. And some people say that there's some other nefarious reason for this, right? That a lot of people say maybe the CIA is out to get us, or I don't know. But the point is, for me, it's the principle of it, right? And people say, well, I'm not doing anything that important. And I say, fine, can I smash into your bedroom at any time I want and just listen to you? I mean, that's what Samsung's doing, and we'll get to that in a minute. But it's the principle of it, right? Side note, what I do here, if you have an Apple portable device, you just go to settings and general, and then update. And you can flip all the switches and turn them all off. And now instead of slowing down after 2 years, it'll last maybe 10. I just went from an iPhone 6 to an iPhone 7. And I keep it at home as an extra phone. Works fine. And I actually like the iPhone 6 because it had something called a real headphone jack that I could actually use. Yeah, settings, general, and go to updates and turn it off. You know, every once in a while, you might have to do an update in order to use some program. That's too bad for you, you have to. But for the most part, all the chaos just stops. The constant headaches and the constant slowing down and the constant don't mind if I do.
Same with the printers, updates on printers. Oh,
printer updates can only destroy, printer updates can never help you, it's a printer. Right,
Yeah.
and we're gonna get into, I use a hardware store analogy later on, but do I break into your house and tell you that you need to update your hammers and your screwdrivers all the time? No, because they're products that you use. Printer update can only destroy. And we're gonna talk about that later with the HP sleeper cell attack scandal.
I have a brother.
Good, alright, yeah, then brothers are guaranteed to last 15 years. More or less, they don't say it, but brothers last 15 years. In my whole career, I've only seen 3, maybe 4 of them die.
I have one.
Nah, then maybe you didn't, yeah, I mean,
Cheaper one.
okay, yeah, and it could have been the print head where it was just printing blank pages.
Okay.
And we'll get into that, so that's possible, but overall, their brothers last forever. So yeah, we'll talk about the sleeper cell attacks where HP sent out an attack to their own printers that turned the printers against the owners. It was nuts, and there's actually a couple of situations of that.
Just a quick question, all I use are a couple little Apple devices. That's not Windows.
No,
Well, what is that called?
so Microsoft Windows is effectively a monopoly for desktop computers.
Desktops,
Yep.
okay.
Most machines are afflicted with Microsoft Windows. And in my book, I go over the history of it. It's actually a fun discussion, the history of it, where there was this guy and he created, I can't even think of his name right now, but he created something called CP/M. And that was the predominant product that people were using as far as software on computers. And IBM in 1984 was thinking about getting into this whole personal computer fad. And they thought it was just a fad, and they said, well, we might as well create something just to appease the masses. So IBM called that guy and said, wanted to license CP/M for use on their new personal computer. And I guess he was out flying his airplane for the day, and his wife said she'd give him the message, and he never got the message, or he didn't call them back or whatever. So IBM said, all right, who are we gonna call now? I guess we'll call this guy named Bill Gates. Maybe he's got something. So they called Bill Gates and said, can you help us out here? We're making this new thing called a personal computer and we need some help with the software. And Bill Gates said, sure, no problem. And he hung up and he had to improvise because he had nothing. But he knew an opportunity when he saw one. When IBM calls you, you answer and you do whatever they want. So he hung up the phone and he took a walk. And he said, what am I gonna do now? And he stumbled on this little software company called Seattle Software Company, and he walked in and they were so eager. Wow, we have a customer. You want to see our thing? It's called DOS and it's really cool. So he wrote them a check for something like 60 grand and he bought the company and walked out and handed that to IBM, and that's what made him a billionaire.
So how does all of this relate to scams on your email and scams on texting?
We're gonna get to that on new threat number 4.
Okay,
But yeah, assume everything is a scam now. That's assume that everything is a scam and always verify everything. Right? If you get a phone call saying, Grandma, I'm stuck in Belize and I need 18 grand, hang up and verify that with somebody. Because chances are it's not true. It's a classic scam. Everyone's fallen for it. Well, there are so many scams that, you know, if you get a scary message that looks like your bank, 99% of the time it's fake. If you get things, fake invoices, that's all the rage lately. And well, I don't know why PayPal and Geek Squad are sending me invoices all the time. It's not them, it's imposters. And they do a fake invoice with a big amount to get you scared. And then conveniently, they plop a phone number right there. If you need to dispute this, feel free to give us a call. And you call them up and that's when they destroy your machine. So we'll get into that.
okay.
How do you shut off updates for your printer?
So somewhere in the printer menu, if you walk up to the little front faceplate, you go into settings and it'll say update, and it's somewhere buried in there. But yeah, those are horribly destructive attacks that will eventually roast the printer, especially in the case of HP. Especially.
What about the Epson? I have an Epson.
Same deal, go to somewhere in the settings and turn it off. And a lot of times they're a little more polite where they'll ask you, hey, you want to do this update? Whereas HP just force attacks the update attacks. Because they're vicious. So as far as Windows itself, with Windows 10 and newer, consumers aren't allowed to protect themselves from these attacks. This is for your own good. You need this. And inevitably, with almost every Windows attack from Microsoft, update attack from them, a lot of destruction ensues. There was these, I think it was called the October 2018 attack, where a good number of people had just roasted all their data. Roasted all your pictures and documents and whatever, and too bad for you. Right? During the Get Windows 10 scandal, when they pushed Windows 10 onto Windows 7 and 8 machines, it roasted the machines completely in a lot of cases. But you aren't allowed to sue them because you agreed that you wouldn't sue them when you clicked agree when you installed it. One lady in California had a travel agency and she sued Microsoft in small claims court and got $3,000 or something. That's it. We all need to sue them every time there is an issue. And some, I don't know who it was, but some guy in Congress said that a year or two ago. He said, hey, anyone notice how all of these products are being destroyed? I mean, why don't we do a class action here? Hello. No one's holding these companies accountable. That's really what it comes down to. There is no recourse for you. All right, so everyone get that? So with Windows 10, by the way, I am one of like 6 people in the world who knows about a product called Stop Updates 10, and that's my secret sauce. That's what I do to put a stop to the stupidity on a Windows machine. And after that, the machine remains stable for at least 10 years. The only time people have problems is after an update attack. New client calls me up, hey Mark, I don't know why my computer doesn't work anymore. Did you see anything called an update yesterday? Yeah, wow, how'd you know? Scientific method right there. All right, so we got that. Having fun so far?
What was the name of that stop update?
Stop Updates 10. It's a very simple product. You can have your local computer guy install it. He'll probably balk at you and say, yeah, but you're supposed to worship updates. I was told to worship them. I am willing to train. I'm willing to apprentice any of those folks, any computer guys you have. And give them updated training so that they're not stuck in 1991 anymore. Yeah, but if you are brave enough, Stop Updates 10, it's made by a guy called Greatis, Greatis, and you install it and you flip a little toggle button and then you're just protected. And you never need updates for Windows.
So we won't lose a PC.
You will lose the destruction. You'll go without all the mayhem. It'll just be stable from then on. And I've been doing this for 15 years. If my clients were any worse off, I would know, but they all just don't have problems anymore. And I tell people when they call, hey, I charge a lot of money, but after this, you can't have a major problem anymore. And we'll talk about backup. I do proper backup, so even if their computer falls off a cliff, no big deal. We do a backup. Again, I make my money by making people's digital lives stabler and simpler. So, the third new threat is crypto locker, also known as hostageware, also known as ransomware. That seems to be the most common term at the moment, ransomware. It makes sense. What do they do here? They walk into any Windows PC like a hot knife through butter while stealing candy from a baby, while shooting fish in a barrel. Microsoft Windows machines are no match for these. They just walk right in the door. It's possible to get this on a non-Microsoft computer, but it's astronomically unlikely, so it's basically impossible. But on a Windows machine, they are almost inevitable. They walk into your machine, they put scary messages. Your important files are encrypted. And it just means they scrambled your documents and photos and made them unusable. They rendered them unreadable. That makes sense so far? And in the book, I give a really simple lesson about what encryption is. And it's a lot of fun. We talk about it. They scramble your stuff, make it useless. They know that you depend on this stuff, and they know that most people have no backup, no duplicate of all your stuff, right? They know that most computer guys out there are scumbags who have no clue what they're doing and just wing it and don't have any idea how to protect anyone, and most of them don't know how to do a backup. They know this, right? So then they beg you for money. And again, it's shooting fish in a barrel, taking candy from a baby.
So once you've got this message and they haven't done this, you can't go back on it.
You're pretty much roasted, so we're gonna talk about how to prevent it.
Okay.
There is something called No More Ransom by Interpol. And it's a website that Interpol itself put up, and I've tried it, and it's basically, you hand them a sample, a tissue sample, so to speak. And they'll analyze it and see if they can undo the damage. Because a lot of scammers are lazy, don't ever forget that, right? Know your enemy. A lot of scammers are very lazy, so they'll use off-the-shelf products, so to speak, to ruin your life. So the Interpol will actually analyze it and say, oh yeah, your scammer was lazy and he decided to use thus and such product, it's an off-the-shelf product, and we can. You know, I've never had any luck with it yet, but it's a hopeful thing, and I hope they keep going with it.
I have all my data and pictures that we looked at on SunDrives.
Okay,
Does that help if the guy calls up and says, so destroy your file, so what? I could put it
are
on.
they exclusively in your thumb drive, or are they duplicated onto a thumb drive?
They're duplicated on.
Good, beautiful. Duplicate your stuff. Are they connected to your computer, or are they disconnected?
They're in the drawer.
Brilliant. So, and you actually skipped ahead to you have the answer. You know more than most computer guys on this planet. I'm not kidding. It turns out that 76% of computer guys are unable to protect their employers in an organizational setting from this. So I am not kidding. You know more than 76% of computer guys, because you have something they don't. It's called logic.
So an external hard drive would do the same thing.
As long as you do your backup and then disconnect it. Yeah. So the ransomware will roast anything inside of your computer. And if you work at an organization, it'll also roast any network drives that your computer has access to. Okay, let's say you're in a hospital and you're reading a trashy gossip column website and you click on something and all of a sudden this ransomware comes up. Oh shoot. All right, it scrambles anything on your workstation, but it also scrambles all of the collaborative network drives that your team has given you access to. Right, so it's kind of like if I stole your ID badge and then went off and wreaked havoc using your ID badge to get into doors, right? And it also scrambles anything connected to your computer. So unfortunately, the few computer guys out there who are telling people about backups, they don't understand. Oh, you gotta just plug it in and leave it there and it'll do it automatically. And then the crypto locker roasts it because it's connected. It roasts anything connected to your computer. It doesn't go from computer to computer. That's important to know. It just roasts anything you have access to. I had this issue like 10 years ago where my parents' friends had this famous business in my hometown, and it's an awesome business, and they called me up and said, Mark, we got a crypto locker. And I said, okay. I said, all right, which machine is it on? Because you'll know whose fault it was, because you just look at whatever machine is roasted, right? Because they saw all the stuff in their network drive being roasted, but they didn't know who was doing it. So figure out which one's roasted. Okay. And by the way, it's usually not the person's fault. They just click on something and they don't know. Again, it's hot knife through butter. So what happens, what they said, the guy said, well, we have an IT staff and they said they're gonna do a McAfee scan. And it just broke my heart, because that's an ancient thing that can never protect against anything, right? Let's say you have some horrible modern disease. Oh, don't worry, Mark. My doctor said he's gonna do bloodletting and a rain dance. That'll help. McAfee can't find anything because it's looking for a virus that's wandering around, which doesn't happen anymore. It's completely unable to stop this modern thing. It wouldn't be able to understand it. They still think that it's a thing that's spreading. Okay. I will say one thing about the Massachusetts Steamship Authority. A couple years ago, I was driving through downtown in Boston, and I was listening to the radio, and they said, Massachusetts Steamship Authority, the leader was on the radio, and he said, we didn't pay the ransom. We got one of these and we didn't pay the ransom. And by the way, this used to happen in residential setting, but I haven't seen it in a while. It's more often happening in the commercial organizational settings, because they know these organizations can afford huge ransoms, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And most of the time when I hear it on the news, oh yeah, some municipality, some hospital, they paid all this ransom money. And it's sad, right? I cried because their computer guy couldn't protect them. But Massachusetts Steamship Authority said, he got on there and he said, my guys protected me. My staff protected me. I didn't need to pay a ransom. And I was so glad to hear that. Whoever they are, they know what they're doing. And again, it has to do with basic logic, common sense, okay? Apparently 78% of computer guys, right? My joke when people say, Mark, why don't you go to companies and teach their IT staff? And I say, no, because these companies are run by what I call bearded tyrants who don't want to hear anything. They don't want to be told what to do. They're still using their 1991 methods, and it allows them to hold something over you, right? Well, I'm the computer guy and you do what I say. You do a virus scan and you do the long passwords because that's going to protect you. And then they're blindsided by this thing, right? So the guys making 100 grand a year who are tasked with protecting these organizations, in the majority of cases, fail to protect their employers, okay? So what aren't they aware of, right? And again, our buddy who said that a few minutes ago. Oops, go back here. All they need to do, like we just said a few minutes ago, do a proper backup. You duplicate your stuff, and then you disconnect it. A bad guy can't get to your thing if it's disconnected and put in a fire safe. Every quarter or so, I do a backup of my own stuff. I've got a lot of pictures and a lot of music. And I love music and pictures, and I love talking about restaurants too. Those are my only hobbies, and old cars. But I've got a lot of data. So I do a backup every quarter. I duplicate it onto a drive. I leave it at my parents' house, totally off-site. And I duplicate it and I'll put one at my office. So I'm pretty protected, right? Even if the bad guy scrambles your stuff, you laugh at them. You tell them to go take a hike to be polite. You erase your computers and you start fresh. And you restore your information from that disconnected hard drive. That's it. Another mishap that a lot of computer guys do is, oh, why don't you just don't store any information in your computer because it slows it down. Don't put pictures on your computer, it slows it down. Just put them exclusively on the backup drive. Okay, two problems there. Number one, having stuff on your computer doesn't slow you down. Having books on your shelf doesn't slow your car down, right? It makes no sense. These guys aren't aware of what actually slows your computer down. The other problem is if you keep your stuff exclusively in that external, all of this stuff is chintzy garbage and it all breaks. You never want your stuff exclusively in one place, no matter what that place is. You don't want it exclusively in your computer. You don't want it exclusively in an external. You want your stuff in at least two places. Does that make sense? Logical. It makes common sense. These guys they aren't aware of it, right? How many magazine ads and TV ads you see, and they got the fancy music and today's ever-changing world, the cloud changes all the time. And we're a cloud company that will protect you. And we're gonna put out fires and look for the latest and greatest. And we keep up with all this and we play whack-a-mole, right? They're all playing whack-a-mole. All they need to do is stop for a few minutes and calm down and remember that they should have some confidence here and remember their logic. You don't have to be a slave to whatever's new and constantly change. Just do a backup. That makes sense? So that's the concept in residential and in commercial settings. And if any of you work for some large organization that is worried about ransomware, you can pay me lots and lots of money and I will teach you how to actually truly protect yourself. And we can even do a fire drill where we erase your computer or start with a fresh empty test computer and we restore your stuff to make sure that that backup actually was done properly. A lot of guys don't do a fire drill. They don't verify any of this stuff. It's simple. Ready for the next one? And this one, one of you asked me this question a few minutes ago, so what do we do about all these scams? This is one that's very, very relevant. And again, computer guys aren't aware of how this works. They don't know the nature of the scam, so they don't know how to protect against it, right? If you don't know the nature of the challenge, how are you going to protect against it? In a nutshell, a support scam is where someone contacts you on the phone, claims to be from some big tech company, and claims you have an issue and promises to solve that issue for you. But really, they're an imposter. They claim to be tech support, right? Support scams. They claim to be tech support, but they are actually a scammer. I get these calls every 5-10 minutes now. It's nuts. What are we gonna do here? Again, it's all about making us afraid, making us forget, and making us lose our minds and act hastily out of fear. Okay? But again, y'all have something that I don't have, and that's wisdom and good sense. Right? I'm not the condescending computer guy who looks down on people. Well, you're stupid, so you can't keep up with this. No, it's the exact opposite. My job is to educate and empower you. All right. So there are 4 ways you can get a support scam. There are 4 ways a support scammer can contact you, right? And it's all the same. It's just there are 4 ways they can start the conversation, right? Number 1, you get a phone call out of the blue, right? Hi, I'm Microsoft. Hi, I'm Amazon. I'm Apple. I'm the IRS, and you have a problem. And we're so scared. We rely on this stuff, right? And I love the radio ads. Oh, this is your finances are at risk, right? Even those Norton and the whoever, your finances are at risk. And they dangle that in front of you and they scare you into subscribing to something that doesn't actually help. Right? So even the companies out there love using that to scare you. It's all at risk, right? The stakes are high. What happens when the stakes are high? I'm actually writing a book about psychology and I talk about how when the stakes are high, we end up squeezing each other pretty hard, right? That's the problem with relationship and politics and all that is the stakes are high. So we tend to overreact. All right, so 4 ways. Number 1, first way is a guy calls you up and he says he's Amazon and you got a problem, okay? And we just noticed a purchase on your account, or I'm Chase Bank, or I'm whatever bank. Sometimes they'll just say, I am your cable company. Really, dude? Really? You're not even gonna say what cable company you are? Really? Oh yeah, I am your bank. Okay, sure, bud. And again, one great way to filter out this stuff is just say bad words in Hindi and watch them show their true colors. And then, by the way, I have a lot of Indian people in relatives and advisors and whatever, and they're awesome. And they'll even say, like, these scammers are giving our country a bad name, right? But unfortunately, turns out there are a lot of people doing this scam. Okay, so the first way is a phone call. The second way is you will, let's say you are looking for tech support. You go on the Google and you type in Outlook tech support, printer tech support, AOL tech support, whatever, right? And I had a buddy from the Berkshires, he's a young guy, and he called me up a couple of years ago, Christmas time. Hey, Mark, I just got this thing and the guy took over my computer and took all my money. And I said, well, all right, what happened? well, I got a new printer for Christmas and I didn't know how to set it up. So I went on the Googles and typed in Canon printer tech support and the phone number showed up. So I called them. Really? You didn't call me? Really? I tell my clients, feel free to bounce something off of me. I don't charge for phone calls. Like, ask your friends and relatives before you do anything. Hey, is this legit? Right? So, and I told the guy, he's such a nice guy, such a selfless guy. I said, you don't understand that you're such a good guy that you can't comprehend there's such evils in the world, right? So that's the second way is you go online and you type for tech support, right? And you get a phone number and these imposters will plot their phone number there. And a lot of them even say Microsoft certified. They'll pay the $25 and they get the textbook and the bumper sticker and the lollipop that says they're Microsoft certified. So they're out there and you really, oh, well, they're Microsoft certified, okay. And then they scam you and destroy your machine. The other way is you'll get an email, right? Again, the email says it's from CindyLouWho@AOL.com, but you don't notice that part because a lot of people don't think to check that. And they'll have a PayPal logo, a Chase logo, a Geek Squad, a Norton, a McAfee logo, whatever it may be. My favorite, this started a while ago. My favorite was an eBay logo and it said, congratulations, you won a pink Motorola Razr for $1,000. And then underneath, they get you scared. And then underneath it, again, a phone number. Ah, how convenient. The fourth way they can get in contact with you, and this one I get almost every day. They plop a pop-up on your computer, right? My mom got one the other day. She was looking on QVC's website for something, and all of a sudden this big pop-up came up, right? They break into some website. It has nothing to do with your computer, okay? And again, your computer guy thinks that people are breaking into your computer. No one can ever break into your computer unless you let them. And we'll talk about that, but it has nothing to do with your computer. So if a computer dude says, oh boy, we got to do a virus scan. Again, we're going to do an ancient thing that doesn't help anymore. So scary pop-up appears on your screen, right? Warning. Maybe you'll get sirens and scary voices. Warning, warning. You have a problem, right? Have you seen those? You might have viruses, and it'll say Windows Defender. System may have found threats and Trojans, and North Koreans put cookies in your firewall. Scary sentences, chock full of scary words. That's all it is. I say it like that to highlight that point. They are nothing more than scary sentences. There's no monster under the bed. It's a scary sentence. That's it. And they know that a lot of seniors don't know how to lower their volume on their computer, so they blast sirens and warning voices. And so I get calls all the time and I hear, I got this thing on my computer. All right, fine, walk away from your computer so I can help you. And and on my show, I've done this before where I'll get a scary pop-up like this with the sirens and I'll call the phone number and I'll crank up my speakers and blast the sirens into the bad guy's ear. It's really fun. The point is, in my professional opinion, the reason why any of this is occurring is because we as a society have lived in fear for the past 30 years due to the extreme incompetence of Microsoft and friends. The bad guys know that we have lived in fear. The bad guys know we watch the news. And we hear about identity theft and hacks and cookies and you name it. Cookies are totally harmless, by the way. And then they put a phone number, right? So those are the 4 ways they can get to you. By the way, another huge thing to remember, big tech companies hate you and they will never talk to you on the phone. They don't put their phone number anywhere, if you notice. The only time you can ever call them, actually, you have to log into your account and then you go to 50 different things in the help menu and you have a battle with it. And eventually, a couple days later, you'll find a thing where you're allowed to click a thing that has them call you. Real tech companies will never put their phone number. So that's a huge clue right there.
Yeah, I think I missed the second one, it's, phone call, email, computer pop up in the beginning.
Oh, you Googling for help, right? Like my chef buddy was Googling for help. So either way, I mean, that's just. And who knows, they'll come out with a new way tomorrow, right? They'll send you a text message or something and say, track a package, and you click on it, right? And then brings you to scary things and scary phone numbers, right? So you call a guy.
They know we are sitting here listening to you.
Great question. Microsoft does and Samsung does, but not the bad guys. So just the big bad guys. They are not really Microsoft and Amazon, right? They're imposters, but they have a foreign accent and they use computer words, so they sound like they're experts. So again, nobody can ever get into your computer unless you let them. And most computer guys don't know this, right? They're all living in fear because they've all given into the fear and, oh, I have to keep up with everything and everything's changing and I'm intimidated, right? No one can ever get into your computer ever unless you let them. So what happens? You call the bad guy and he says, all right, let me look at your computer. I'm here to help. Sometimes they don't even say, let me into your computer. Sometimes they just tell you, right? All right, hold the Windows thing on your keyboard and press R. And then they'll say, go to www.logmein123.com, for example. Okay, and I don't know if I pulled that up, let's find out. There it is. Yeah, so it pulls up this thing. Oh, look at that, and then he'll give you a code and you type it in, and in a few seconds, he takes over your computer's keyboard and mouse, and you watch him fly around. And again, half the time they don't even tell you what you're doing, they just have you type things. Oh, I'm just helping you. That's the only time anyone can get in is if you let them in, okay? There was a Swedish movie about vampires called Don't Let the Right One In. And it talked about how the vampire would knock on your door and they couldn't break into your house unless you invited them in. So they had to figure out a way to get you to invite them in. Same deal. Same deal. What they'll do a lot of times at this point, and again, another huge thing to know that your computer guy is not aware of is that these remote support tools that they're using are fully legal. So if you get one of these and then you call a computer guy and he says, oh, bring it in for a virus scan. He does not understand the nature of the issue. Bad guys are now using fully legalized tools to get away with it. And one of my clients is a police trainer and I'm trying to have him introduce me to police departments and anyone really, fire departments or whoever wants to listen to me so I can teach prevention, right? So another thing, once these guys get into your machine using these fully legalized remote support tools, okay? These are tools that any computer guy can use, good or bad. Log me in 123, AnyDesk, TeamViewer, you name it, right? They're using these tools, so they go right in the door, right? They walk right in. One of the things they'll do is they'll do a smoke and mirrors thing, called Event Viewer. Where did it go? Ta-da! Here's Event Viewer. This is cool. I'm actually doing this on the actual machine here. So they'll go into things. Ooh, security. Let's click on security. Come on, and we'll wait a few seconds. Sorry, it's taking attendance here. Oh, look at all this. Oh, wow. So they'll get you scared. Let's see here. All right, these are all success, but maybe toward the. Let's go to system. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Oh, there's warnings. Sir, ma'am, there are 25,293 warnings. Warnings, errors, warnings. Smoke and mirrors, folks. You know that term. That's all it is. A event viewer is something in every computer that records a log of innocuous events. That's it. But most people don't know that. So they look at it and they get you riled up.
You just ignore it.
Don't let them in the first place. Don't let the vampires in the first place. But if you do, anyone, and you know this from life, right? You know this from life. If someone is really desperate and persistent, then chances are something's wrong, right? And think twice. Can't tell you how many bullets I dodged in relationships that way.
Okay.
They show you a list of innocuous things. It's kind of like, again, if you go to your doctor and your doctor says, are you blinking or sneezing lately? Are you hiccuping? That's terrible. You should be scared, right? It's innocuous things that don't matter, but he's using them. Oh, it said system warning, so it must have been, wow, right? Again, we've all lived in fear. So we just believe it. The other thing they'll do, and again, I have a test machine and I play dumb and I let them break into my machine and I watch what they do. That's how I learn, because they change every day, right? They change their phone numbers every day, and so blocking their phone number doesn't help. And side note, I'm creating an appliance that blocks all scam calls to a landline. Hopefully that'll be out later this year. Keep an eye on that. Keep in touch, but
Are landlines now all Wi-Fi? Or are they really connected by a?
it's not Wi-Fi. They're all, a lot of them are going toward more modern wires that go into your house called
Okay.
fiber optic, but it has nothing to do with Wi-Fi necessarily. Yeah, but yeah, and it's sad that people are abandoning their landlines, but they feel so helpless because of the constant barrage of scam calls. But again, none of the suffering needs to happen. None of this needs to happen, right? And the few guys who tried to create solutions to that problem end up creating harebrained schemes that are ineffective. My industry loves slathering complexity on a problem to make it worse. You ever go to a cocktail party and talk to an engineer and ask them how to solve a problem? But it takes simplicity and confidence and logic to solve a problem, especially in this industry. So I'll let the guy into my machine and I'll let him snoop around. And conveniently for him, our web browsers, right, Firefox, Chrome, and heaven forbid Edge, will store our passwords for us. Oh, how convenient. So now the bad guy goes in there and he told me, he said, I am securing your system. Right? I'm securing your system. And he goes in there and he hunts for your passwords for your bank. Nice job, buddy. Right? They're not doing viruses, are they? It's a guy snooping around your machine. There's no virus. There's no virus. There hasn't been a virus. There's never been a virus here. They also will sometimes tell you all sorts of things, right? You need to delete the banking app on your phone because hackers are in there. Oh, the hackers are in there? Okay, I'll do whatever you say. And then you delete the app on your phone. In reality, he wants to delete that app on your phone because that app on your phone would notify you that someone's getting into your bank account. Right? Or the other one, don't call anyone. Your phone lines are compromised by North Koreans. So I had a client who ran over to the neighbor's house and called me from there, luckily. And they don't want you using your phone because they don't want you calling your computer guy. They don't want you calling your kids or your nephews or nieces or whatever. So they tell you, oh, don't use your phone. And they scare you into it. Oh, okay, I won't use my phone. I'm afraid I'm being compromised, right? Don't worry, I'll take care of you. They don't want you using these things because then you talk to someone who can shed some light on the situation, okay? So having a virus scanner can never stop them ever, 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 ever. And one of the guys last night in my talk said, yeah, I got one of these and my nephew is a successful computer engineer somewhere and he's a higher up at whatever and he makes thus and such money and I got one of these and I called him and he said, Uncle, I'm gonna erase your computer right away. Well, even that guy doesn't understand completely what's going on. All you need to do is remove that little legalized tool in the computer and the guy can't get in anymore. That's all it is. He says, oh, we're going to put AVG on your computer, do a virus scanner. you know, he meant well, he loved his uncle, but he didn't understand that virus scanners are completely useless at this point, okay? What does stop them? What are we gonna do to stop this? Yeah, especially when they say, warning, do not turn off your computer, it'll blow up. Turn it off. Or, really, all you need to do is move your mouse to the top of the screen. And it'll say, press escape to exit this full screen video. It's just an evil video. That's all it is. And you press escape on your keyboard sometimes, or you move your mouse up to the top and look for the X. I can't tell you how many times a day I have to walk someone through this on the phone. About a year ago, I had the secretary, and I didn't have the time, but she had the time, so she'd get one of these calls, and she'd go to people's houses and press escape and close the scary window. And they gave her $40 for anytime she'd make $40 each time. And she was thrilled. She's a young kid, you know, starting out in the career world, and she was thrilled, and they were thrilled that for $40 she saved them. So that's a good deal. Aside from that, what is going to stop this phenomenon in the world? It's not technical. Again, it's not technical. It's scary sentences and nothing more. What is going to stop this? No. Laws are excellent at complicating things and not actually helping anything. That's our first reaction, right? In the old world, yeah, you make a law and people stop doing it. These guys are beyond the law. They're in all sorts of countries. They're using random phone numbers that change every few minutes. They're hiding under cover of complexity, as I say all the time. What's gonna stop this?
Don't do it.
Just ignore it.
Yeah.
Just ignore it. And please warn your friends. It's up to you to stop this. Not only am I empowering you here, but I'm telling you, it's up to you to stop this. Tell your friends who come to the library and who anywhere. Just be aware. That's it. Awareness. That's all it takes. Prevention. If you don't pick up the phone, none of this happens. None of this would have happened, right? And people always call, hey, Mark, I got a scary thing, and I talked to the guy, and all right, did you let him into the machine? I don't know, maybe I did. All right, leave it off until I get there. Right? And unfortunately, a lot of scummy computer guys at these big box stores, their first instinct is to wipe out your whole computer because they think you have a virus. What do you mean? Oh, yeah, your computer's compromised, it's all poison, and they wipe out your precious photos and videos. And whatever, because they have less than 5 minutes of training and do not understand the logic. Okay, so again, it's up to you to warn your friends. That's it. That's what's gonna stop this. It's up to you to tell them all of it is fake. Tech companies don't wanna call you. They're never gonna call you. And please tell your bankers to stop sending people to the big box store for a virus scan. It's an excellent way to waste $300 for absolutely inept fake protection. I had this lady, she's a longtime client of mine, and she got one of these things, and she went to her bank, and the bank said, yeah, go to Best Buy and get a virus scan. So she forgot to call me, and she actually went to some local shop. They did a 1981 virus scan. They shrugged their shoulders, handed it back to her. They completely ignored the fully legalized remote support tool that was right there on the desktop. They completely ignored the fake cleaner that the guy put in there. It was called Total AV, and he said it was gonna protect them. And they completely ignored everything. They did a virus scan and told her computer was old and she needed to buy a new one besides. So she went out and bought a new one. And the only reason she called me is because she was terrified by the new one, because it was Windows 11, and nobody on this earth has ever figured out how to use Windows 11. I end up, if you have a newer Windows machine, I beat it up and make it look like Windows 7, so it's actually usable. All right.